Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to the Tabletop Nights. My name's Claire, and I'm here to review a brand new game. So new, it's unknown. As you may have guessed by my background and by the title of this video, the game is called Planet Unknown, and it's on Kickstarter until May 2. So get in quick, guys, for those extra bonus Kickstarter specials. As a self-confessed sci-fi nerd, I've got to say I love all things space. I used to watch Stargate SG-1 with my dad and Sliders, Star Wars, all those fun kind of shows. And I really never lost the joy of discovering new planets and finding alien species. So this game is right up my alley because not only are you discovering a new planet, you're creating it. But if you're not into intergalactic things, don't let that deter you, because this game has a little something for everyone. Ever heard of a little game called Tetris? Well, if you enjoy that, you are going to love this game. It is a tile-laying game, and as our fellow knight Greg will tell you, it is now his favorite tile-laying game. You get to civilize a planet, plant technology, increase your biomass, and one day make your planet inhabitable so that your favorite humans can come and live with you there. Because no one wants to stay in social isolation forever. As you build your planet and move along the isolation track, you earn medals, and whoever has the most medals at the end of the game is victorious and becomes queen of the universe. Or king, I guess. The game can be played with 1 to 6 players, which is awesome because most games are 4 players, or you have to pay for an expansion to make it 6 players, or you're playing the game and, with 6 players, and by the time it gets to your turn, you're bored, or you've switched off, or you're on your phone, or something like that. So it's really hard to find a game that is good to play in a big group. The benefit of this game is there is no downtime. So you draft your tiles at the same time, you lay them on your board, you resolve all the different resources, and you move around at the same time. That means that there's not time for people to get bored or distracted or any of that things. And it takes about the same amount of time to play a solo game as it does to play with 6 players, which is super awesome. And it's about 40 to 60 minutes. Now, the number of players is limited to 6 because it's dictated by the moon pie, space cake, pizza planet. Anyway, that lazy contraption jigger in the middle. The creators of this game are Adam's Apple Games, and they have had 4 previous Kickstarters. So, with this 5th one, they know what's going on. They're looking after their backers and making sure that they get out their games on time. They have also graciously provided a scripted tabletop simulator version of Planet Unknown, which you can play right now through your Steam account. Myself and 3 of my fellow tabletop knights played in a 4-player variant the other day, and don't just take my word on how good this game is. Let's have a bit of a look at what they said. Greg, this is my favorite tile laying game ever. I love the theme, and it's less fiddly than some of those other tile laying games. And as an added bonus, you can use a Lazy Susan for your yum cha as well. Glenn, he said it's visually appealing with a lot going on to pique my interest. It's easy to learn, but has some good strategic variants for replaying. Victor said there's quite a few different tactics, meaning that every time you play, it's completely different. Not only can the strategies, or strats as the cool kids call them, be different every time you play, but the asymmetric planet boards and tracker boards allow for 49 different player combinations. That is out of this world. And if you back the Kickstarter campaign with the extra corporation boards and bonus planets, the possibilities are endless. When I sat down to learn the rules, I thought I'd try a quick solo game on the tabletop simulator version, and I loved it so much I went straight back on Kickstarter and backed this project right away. And what's better than playing board games by yourself? It's playing board games with your friends. And this game did not disappoint. It was fairly easy to teach, maybe took 5-10 minutes, because the mechanics just really make sense in this game. We're going to have a 3-player playthrough soon on the Tabletop Nights channel, and I encourage you guys to tune in, because in space, nobody can hear you stream. So we need you people on Earth to like and subscribe and watch our videos and make sure that you get the most up-to-date content from Tabletop Nights. Let's have a bit of a look at how the game works, and then we'll pop over and have a look at the Kickstarter campaign. Guys, how beautiful is this board? I absolutely love the planet. I love that it's backlit. It kind of pops off the page. I love the colors. I just love everything about it. This is your basic planet setup. This is the standard planet, the symmetric one, so that everyone can play the same. There are, I believe, 6 different planets in the base game. In Kickstarter, I believe with stretch goals, they're up to about 9 different planets. Another reason to back it on Kickstarter, ending May 2nd. So all you need to do is to lay your tiles, you will draft them from the centerpiece. So this is the Lazy Susan that's in the center. You'll be drafting your pieces from the section facing you. In a 3-player game, you can rotate this to choose which section you'd like to pick from. All the other players, they get to pick from whichever section is facing them. So if I've chosen here, this player over here gets to pick one of these 2 pieces, this player over here gets to pick one of these 2, and so on and so forth. And once you've drafted your pieces, you can place them on your board. The very first piece that you draft must be touching an edge. So let's draft this piece, for example. We'll lay it here right on the edge. You cannot place your tiles outside of these squares. You just place them right in there, and then you get to gain their benefits. So you get to move these tiles along the track depending on the benefits that you're receiving. So obviously they all start in the 0 section. This is your engine building track or planet track. So when you look at this symbol, this one is technology. So when I place this tile, you get 2 different types of resources, and you get to advance both those tracks. So this one, I advance technology 1 and biomass 1. However, this tile in particular also has a meteor, in which case I would place a meteor tile here. We'll talk about them in a bit more detail later. So on and so forth. You spin the Lazy Susan, the first player changes, and you keep laying your tiles. Now, the tiles do not have to match color to color, but they do have to have at least one whole face touching each other. So you can place this tile here, you could place it there, but you cannot place it on the diagonal. This is, at this stage in the game, not a legal placement. Once you move up your track up this technology track to level 1, then you can place your tiles anywhere on the planet. But for this stage, they have to be touching. You might notice on the planets that they have these, what looks like water, but because it's on a planet, it's not warm enough for it to be water. So these are ice veins. In order for your water tiles to allow you to advance up the water track, they must be touching part of an ice vein on the planet. So this is a legal move, and it must be the water part. So in this section here, you can see the rover is over the ice. That does not count. You will not be able to move up the water track if you place your tile here. For this purpose, we'll place it here. You can see one of the tiles is overlapping this, so we would be able to advance up our water track and our rover track. When you move up to the rover, you can see the very first time you get to deploy one of your rovers. So we would move one of our rovers out here. Now these rovers have to be placed on the last tile played. There are other ways to advance, which we'll look at later. So your last tile may not be one with a rover on it, but you can place it anywhere on there. So I might place it here, for example, because I'm going to try and get this meteor over here that we just placed. The other thing to note is you cannot change your tiles later, but before you put it down, you can have this whichever way you like. So maybe we were trying to get some biomass together. We put it like this. We have the tile here. We have a meteor here. So I'd be placing my rover here so that I can get that meteor on the next turn. But once that tile is laid, you cannot then go and flip it later like I just did. Okay, then we place another tile here. You can see this
tile that I'm placing now, the water is not being placed on an ice vein. So I would not move one up on the track for that. This is a new tile that we haven't seen yet. This is an energy tile. So that means that you can use that energy to absorb another resource from any of the tiles around you. So you could take one of the water ones or a rover. So for the sake of this one, let's move one up the rover track. The bonus about this is that even if your water is not placed on an ice vein, when you lay an energy tile, you can advance your water track. Then we'll place one more tile here. You cannot place your tiles on top of life pods. If you do, that life pod is squished and removed from the game. So the idea is to move your rover around and collect these life pods because they are worth 1 whole medal each. So if you manage to maneuver your rover around to get rid of that life pod, you pop it up here and you get to score that point at the end of the game. But in the same way that if you squash a life pod, it gets removed from the game. If you squash a rover, it is also removed from the game. So in this case, you can see the energy tile. I've just placed it next to other energy tiles. So you have the option of either collecting the water for this, or you can go through another energy tile and collect the rover or collect another civilization one. So as we laid these tiles, we'd move up the civilization track, lay down our meteors, which must be laid down every time you lay down a tile with a meteor, unless you've reached level 5 on the technology track, which means you're immune from meteor strikes. So as you can see, we've put down a line here. We haven't quite made a line, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. But if you had this as a full line here, let's grab a piece actually that can fit there. We'll grab this piece. Okay, we'll pop this in here. So we've now made a full line across here, which would be worth 3 medals at the end of the game. However, there is a meteor in this track, so you need to have your rover move either through or onto that meteor in order to remove that from the board. Now that 3 medals is free to be collected at the end of the game. So we spoke a little bit about medals here. There's a few different ways to earn medals. So one is by creating your rows and columns with no meteors as a solid row. So there's a tile the whole way across. You don't need to worry about your rovers. They can be there too. The second way to receive medals is by advancing up the track here. So let's have a little bit of a closer look at this track. When you move up the tech track, so the first one, you get nothing for that. The second one, you can see this is this color wheel. It actually appears on all of the tracks. When you reach a color wheel, it means you can advance any other track also. So let's, for example here, move up the civilization track. As you get to level 1, on your next turn, this becomes active. So this means that tiles can be placed anywhere on the planet, which we had a look at before. The second one is that biomass squares, which are these squares here, which we'll look at when we get to the biomass track. You can hold on to them at the end of the game. Level 3, you add 1 to your rover movement, which we'll look at soon. And double water progress, and as I said before, immune from future meteor strikes. So that's a pretty cool one to move up. The rover, as I mentioned, when you move up the first one, you get to deploy your first rover. At this point here, you get to deploy your second rover. In order to move your rover, you need to land as you move up. So as you move to here, you can then move your rover 1 space. He can go on other tiles or onto the planet. And then as you move along, once you collect your second rover, those 2 turns that's listed here, you can move 1 rover 2 spaces, or you can move each rover 1 space, as long as the total number of moves adds up to the number that's here. Most of the tile tracks, once you reach the end, that's as far as you can go and you can't receive any more benefits, except for the rover. If you reach the end and you get another rover space, you can just keep moving 4 spaces as many times as you want. For the bio track, it's very similar in that it has these color wheels, meaning you can advance any other track. It has medals. So at the end of the game, whichever is the highest medal you've crossed or landed on, that's what counts towards your score. So for this one, it would be 1, 1. If you're up here, then it would be 3. Now, these little green tracks, there's 5 on here, the little trees, they mean that you get a biomass square. You can place, if you have not reached level 2 on your technology square, you must place this right away. So in this case, I'd place this right here so that I now have a solid line in this second row once I can get rid of that meteor. However, once you have reached level 2, you can store these biomass squares until the end of the game so that you can ensure that your placement of them allows you the most amount of rows and columns to score points as possible. The water track, it doesn't have any other special abilities, but it is really strong in medals. So as you move up the water track, it allows you to gain medals much faster. All the other tracks max out at 5, which if you can get your water to here, to this spot, you have reached the same level. If you can get your water track all the way to the end, that's 10 medals, which is pretty cool. The last track is your civilization track, or your civ track. So you can see that there's 4 little civ symbols here. Each one represents a different type of card. So when you reach here, you get to come and have a look at the civilization cards. So you will pull both of or there should be however many players there are +1 of these cards, but I have this set up for solo at the moment. So there's just 2 cards. So you can choose whichever one of these you like. So for this one, you can advance any one track 2 spaces. So you could move your water forward 2, or you can choose this card to improve meteor scoring. Now, as I said, you can move your rover around to collect life pods, which are worth 1 point each, or if you can manage to collect 3 meteors, they are also worth 1 point per 3 meteors. This card means that actually when you collect 3 meteors, you get 2 medals. And if you get another one of these cards, which could be in a higher level, then for every 3 meteors, you get 3 points. So this really makes these a lot stronger. So if you're collecting meteors quite easily, then that's probably the right card for you. So you would select one of those. If it says immediate, then you resolve it immediately. If it says end game, you can keep that hidden until the end of the game when we start counting up the points. Okay. Cool. This is your first player token. So that is the board there. We've looked at the rover, we've looked at the civ track. Let's have a look at the other cards. So there's a couple of different variants that you can play. If you're playing solo, you must use these event cards. You can see these cards here are for solo mode only. So you can use them and some of these other cards. What you'll do is you'll get 20 cards in your hand. In the solo mode, once you've used up all these cards, you trigger the end of the game. For the group, you can choose 20 cards except for the solo mode cards. The red cards are a high difficulty, orange cards are a medium difficulty, and the blue cards are a low difficulty. So the blue ones generally help you advance your tracks, and the other ones might make you regress your tracks or not able to gain benefits. So you can choose the difficulty of your game by choosing different cards from different levels. Now, you don't have to use your event cards if you're not playing solo mode. So I would recommend starting without the event cards for the first time that you play. You may notice these coins at the top. They're only relevant for the solo game. So when you add up all these points in the solo game of your 20 cards, the 20, whatever that adds up to, that's what you're trying to beat with your scores. So you're essentially playing against the difficulty that you have created by choosing these cards. So if, for example, this is 20, you need to get more, the total of these is 20, you need to get more than 20 points by calculating your rows, columns, life pods, meteors, your planet tracks or engine building tracks, and anything that you've resolved through these civilization cards here. The other thing for the solo one is there's 2 different types of challenges. So for the solo challenge, you have there's a pack of solo cards. You'll shuffle them, draw out 4 at random, and then choose which 4 challenges you'd like to take on. Each of these are worth 5 points. So you can try and collect 10 meteors, create a 3x3 square of technology terrain, create a connected area of 7+ water tiles, and create a 3x3 square of power terrain. So you can choose to either put this here and here, so you put 2 life pods. You can choose to do this would be choosing all 4 once, or you could move your life pod between a card, so you're doing this one, and you're going to do this water tile twice. Okay, and each time you succeed in one of those, it's worth 5 points. Now, in the multiplayer variant, when you have a few different people playing, you'll place the cards between each player's planet tiles. So that is a challenge between just these 2 planets. So if this player here, the challenge with the player on the right is to have the most rover squares on the edge of their planet. So that's the most of these rover squares along the outline here. On the other side, you have another challenge with the opponent on the left. Have the most biomass squares on the edge of your planet. So you might decide that you don't want to get both of those because that might be kind of difficult. So you might choose to do one of those challenges or both. If you win, you get 5 medals, and if you tie, you get 2 medals. Okay, I think we've covered most of that board there. Let's have a look at a board that's already been filled in. So as I said before, this board's about halfway through. If we were going to score it, you'd see that this would score 1 point, this would score none because there's empty gaps, this would score 2 points, and so on and so forth. And then this one here would not score any points because there's a meteor there, which needed to be collected by a rover. Over here, you can see that you'd get 2 medals on this track, 5 medals on the water track, 1 medal on the bio track, 2 medals on the rover track, and 1 medal on the technology track. You will get 2 medals, 1 for each of those life pods. And to look at your meteors, you've got 5 divided by 3, which is 1, 0.66666, but we round down. So that would just be 1 point there. Now you can see this is a different type of challenge to have the most unique technology areas on the planet. So this one would have 1 unique area, 2 unique areas versus this planet over here. Now this just has the same planet cards, but we'll have a look at those in the Kickstarter campaign. But you can see that there's different corporations. So you can choose to have a different board on the side here, which allows you to advance in a different way. So this one, the Civ, Water, Rover, and Tech tracks act as normal, but the biomass track is a little bit stronger. However, you can only advance your biomass from tile placement if you place your biomass tile adjacent to another biomass tile. But you can see as you move, you're actually moving 3 spaces and you get extra bonuses per time. So that's pretty strong there. So that's kind of a look at the game. I really love the Lazy Susan here. I think it's really cool. Okay, guys, we're going to jump over into the Kickstarter campaign now and have a bit of a look through there. So you can see there's the 2 different editions here. So the Kickstarter edition has the custom injected molded Lazy Susan, which who does not want a custom injection molded Lazy Susan? And the retail edition has a rotating cardboard version. They have different types of player boards. As you can see, the custom molded plastic bits are way cooler for the Kickstarter version. I really love this little life pod. I think it's super cute. And you get a wooden first player token. So you can see the 144 unique polyomino tiles. Really cool. They're double-sided. They're the same on both sides. As I said before, you can flip them either way. I just love the colors on them. I think they're beautiful. So the retail edition, you get 6 double-sided planet boards. But with the Kickstarter, they've unlocked some stretch goals so that there's some bonus planets, which is super cool. We looked at the planet goal cards, the civilization cards, the solo deck. They're pretty cool. And the resource track tokens. Guys, how cute are these? I absolutely love them.
So here are the planets. So each planet has its own unique quality about it. That means that each time you play it, it really is different. So for example, if we look here at planet 1, the unique challenge is the ice. It's unstable and it shifts, which means that you can only place tiles either completely on the land or completely on the ice. So that adds really another level of difficulty. If you look at planet 3 here, there's a big chasm down the center, which means that your rover cannot cross that. So you have to make sure that you deploy your rovers in a way that you can collect the meteors and life pods on either side of the chasm. So there's heaps of cool planets here. So we're up to planet 6. As you can see, these boards are double-sided and the different planet boards. So these are the different corporations. We looked at one of them before, but each of the corporation has a different ability and way to advance you up the track, just to keep you guessing and keep you on your toes. So why Kickstarter? As I said, for that crazy lazy Susan, which is awesome. And Adam's Apple Games has chosen Kickstarter for 5 out of 7 games that they've created because they just love us. They love their backers. So they've unlocked a bunch of stretch goals here. So you can see we've got some bonus planets. They've upgraded the size of the first player token, extra Civ cards, extra event deck cards. We're getting a new corporation. They've unlocked a new planet. All the stretch goal corporations are triple layered boards, and we are not far off getting a 10th planet. Super exciting, guys. Anyway, we went through a bit of the how to play. I'm super excited to get this game in my hands, and once we're out of isolation, I cannot wait to play it in real life. As I said, stay tuned, like and subscribe to Tabletop Nights so that you can see our live stream, potentially, or at least our YouTube video playthrough of Planet Unknown. Get excited, guys. It's going to be out of this world. That's me signing off.